Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. We just wrapped up our latest Sunday watch on HBO. Another fantastic episode of hopefully what is quickly becoming everybody's favorite show on TV. I knew before it even dropped that it was going to be my favorite because I could see what was coming from an adaptation and a delivery on the execution of what the storytelling through a TV show can be while bringing a lot of the game stuff, and that continues here. And considering how my Sunday and weekend went in sports, I talk about that a lot in my spoiler review, so I won't say much here, but tough L for the Cowboys. This was a big pick-me-up for me. What am I talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We are getting ready to dive in spoiler-free. Don't worry, no spoilers here, folks. Into episode 2 of The Last of Us, titled Infected. And if you want to see my spoiler review, that'll come up after this video. You'll probably get it around Wednesday, I think is when I got it posted last week. So be on the lookout for that. But we start things off with the non-spoiler stuff. And this was, I think, the episode that I personally was waiting for. It's one of these things where The Last of Us, one of the best things about it besides the storyline is the gameplay. And the gameplay involves a lot of, like, on the edge of your seat. This is a tough game to go in and like just guns blazing because there's not a lot of ammo, specifically as you elevate the difficulty levels, right? Like the more you elevate the difficulty, the less ammo, the less resources that you get. And this game, the more you play it, becomes one of strategy and stealth, and you got to move around and be careful because zombies, people, like there's a lot of slow moving, and you got to take your time because you don't have a lot, right at your fingertips. And that's something that, because you experience, I'm going to say this word a lot in this review, but for me, one of the things that's hard to translate to a television or movie medium, specifically a movie medium, is the way you experience stuff in the game. The first episode last week consolidated a lot of storytelling into, a much more compact area because it works inside of television. What they accomplish and what they're able to add to the story by consolidating other things really makes the show work. And what you end up doing is from a storytelling perspective, you pretty much, when you're going to do the show, you got to think of shrinking it down to the cinematics. You're not going to get to live and experience in the show the way you can in the game. Like when you have these long stretches of taking out soldiers or, different faction members or zombies, like you're not going to get a lot of that. And this episode, this episode, titled Infected, did exactly what I was hoping for. This stretch of the game, where we left off last week, leads us right into our first real stretch with the infected, both runners, but more importantly, clickers. And I was hoping that this episode, based on things that we'd seen in trailers, would be the episode that really focuses in on that element, and specifically the zombies. And from a storytelling standpoint, we get another wonderful cold open that doesn't exist in the game, that adds more context to the virus and the spread of this pandemic. And then from what we get inside the episode itself, while I think we get some wonderful additions and storytelling moments for some of our characters, this episode is about experiencing the world. And they put you inside this one building. It's minor spoilers. It's a museum that's in Boston, and that's an area that you come to in the game. And again, set design, visual effects, costume, character design, this stuff is all spot on, and they combine a lot of things. They take a stretch where you go through a bunch of buildings, you go through a subway, you end up in this museum, and they consolidate all of that stuff just to this museum. But when the infected show up, the show lets you live in it, man. And like, you're on the edge of your seat. And for me, being a gamer, this is an episode I looked forward to. There is good story stuff here, but this one's really more about experiencing the zombies. And the story beats that you get are mostly driven in adding on to how this infection spreads. Minor spoiler, but one of the things that was not present last week, and that doesn't seem to be what won't be present as we go through the show, are the spores. But the thing that we have seen that was not really in the game are these tendrils. And obviously, in the end of the episode where Mazin and Druckmann are talking on the inside stuff. They talk about the decision making around that, which I think was very important for fans to understand. And I think it's one from a narrative perspective makes more sense and allows for really beautiful, horrific moments for Druckmann. Like Mazin says, his horror is beautiful, and it's true. And you get some of that stuff here. And I like that this episode leans into that. Lets us learn more about the infected. Lets us see the infected. And we get to see both runners and clickers. And we really get to live with some clickers. And they capture that stuff so well. The way you have to be dead silent. And it's one of those things where in the game you experience it so much, it makes you dead silent in real life. Kind of like A Quiet Place, right? Like in the movie theater, I remember when I went with my sister, she kind of dropped her cup into her cup holder and it made a noise and everybody was like, and this episode elicits those emotions. And that was something I was really looking for. And I think it's kind of cool that they decided to take a whole episode for the most part and really let you live in this world and experience what you do in the game all the time. And now that you've captured that, now I think you just see that stuff sprinkled in and you see more plot-driven, story-driven, character-driven episodes, specifically as we move forward into next week, which for gamers, mild spoiler, but you probably should see this coming, and for non-gamers, this won't mean anything to you, but next week we'll be running into Bill and Frank, and I thought for the adaptation of this stretch, from the end of last episode to where you get to Bill and Frank for next episode, I thought they really nailed the adaptation. And I think the additions that you get specifically for Tess's character gives Anna Torv really good stuff in this episode. Emotionally connects things a little bit better than the game because we get to spend, some extra moments with Tess. But the other thing too is in the game, there are moments where Ellie and Joel get split and Tess is with Ellie, and they kind of flip-flop that here, which I like because it gives Pedro and Bella a little bit more time to bounce off each other. You can really tell that Joel does not like this. Not that he doesn't like this kid, but he's not willing to like this kid. And you get that in some of their banter here. And while I think Torv is really the driving force from an acting perspective, the bits that we do get with Bella and Pedro are really good, and they are the characters, like, really, really well. And there's some exposition dumps in this episode, but considering that a good chunk of it is living inside of this museum sequence and building to a really, first made, I guess it's like a second major moment in the game. I think these moments are going to be like the end of the episodes as we kind of move through, but I think as you build to another big moment in the storytelling, they execute all that stuff really well. And like I said, I like the extra stuff and the exposition dumps that you get with Torv and Ellie and Pedro, because it adds to the zombies and it adds to the character, stories. But this one for me is really, really about the zombies and living in this world, letting the audience, specifically the non-gamers, get a better feel of what it's like to be out here, and then letting both the non-gamers and the gamers understand better the changes that they've made around how the infection can spread and not using spores versus using these kind of tendril things, and how that plays into the zombies and what they've created here. And there are differences from the game, but again, I think these differences enhance the storytelling for the TV show. So let's get the Sea Maniacs up. And again, before we even get into the score of the episode itself, for me, adaptation-wise, this is a 5. Set design, costume design, character design around the zombies, specifically the clickers, sound design, visual effects, the environment, everything here that you're watching is perfection. I mean, downtown Boston and the way that it looks in the game is exactly how it looks here. I mean, from the buildings that are into each other, working toward the state building, different places that we pop into in this episode, everything is spot on. But because it's less narrative driven and more experience driven, I love that you get to experience what it is like and the fear that you get to experience throughout the game a lot, and what some of that gameplay is kind of like. I love how it was executed. It really makes these zombies scary. And the little bit of narrative here that we get is good. It adds to the story, specifically stuff around the infected. And I think, like I said, anytime you change or add something here, Druckmann and Mazin are enhancing the story and making it work really well on television. But because it's less character driven, I mean, while I think Anna Torv does an amazing job in making the emotional beats for her character in this stretch of the game and story connect, I don't think it connects as much as it can because this is more experience driven than plot driven. So I think because I know the plot and the story and where things are going to go for these characters, specifically for Ellie and Joel, like Pedro and Bella are going to get some really solid acting moments as you move through this story. And because I don't think this one hits those, I'm going to once again go 4.5 out of 5. This thing is damn near perfect. But when you're looking at it from an episode kind of storytelling perspective, I don't think this is a perfect episode. I think you could have fit some more storytelling in there. But for me, I personally prefer what we get here because this is the episode in the moment where you get to really experience and understand what it's like to play the game. And now from this point forward, you can really stick, I think, more to the cinematics and sprinkle in that experience stuff so that the narrative is what drives this show. But 4.5 out of 5 for me. This thing is fire. And it was the perfect pick-me-up that I needed after my Cowboys lost a tough one to the Niners today. So there you go, man. Those are all my non-spoiler thoughts on episode 2 of The Last of Us Infected. I think they did a really good job of focusing on the infected for an episode, letting us understand this world, and I'm pumped for where we're heading next week as we head toward Bill and Frank. But I'm going to zip it. I'm going to turn it over to you. What'd you guys think? First, for our non-gamers, how did this episode play for you? Did the experience concept work for you? Or did you need more character and story development and driving plot points? Did you wish that we could have gone backwards? Well, we get some more background on Ellie. But with Ellie and the zombies, bunch of exposition dumps. Is that stuff working for you so that you could experience this, or would you have preferred maybe a shorter zombie and show me more story? Then for the gamers, did this capture the experience that you wanted the show to capture, specifically around the zombies, specifically around the clickers? How did that stuff work for you? Were you having like PTSD to some degree? Were you reliving some of your own fearful moments from playing the game as you watched this episode? What'd you think of the ads for Tess? What'd you think of Anna Torv's performance? What'd you think of Pedro, Bella? Anything you guys got, man? Good, bad, indifferent on The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 2, Infected. Put it down below in the comment section. I look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man anytime we're talking movies, TV, trailer reactions, you want to be here for my week-by-week coverage. If you're new, we do non-spoilers on late Sunday nights, early Monday mornings. Reactions and spoiler review is already shot, obviously, and that will come out probably around Tuesday, Wednesday, depending how my editing goes. So you want to be here for all that stuff if you're new and you haven't yet. Want to show a little love and support to this wacky, crazy guy, or you just like my insight, and you want to be around for more of it, then come join C-Maniac Nation, man. You can do that, talk to some cool peoples, just simply by jumping over there, hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts, and until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace. Oh, you guys are still here. You snuck up on me. You must be looking for more of this guy. Well, I got 2 video options for you, man. Right up here and right over here. And if you want all those C-Man goodies, well, hey, come join the squad right on over there, and I'll catch you on the next one.